Hello?
And Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the Coles Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Charles Edmond, I see Murrell. I see we were talking about Arkansas Pine Bluff's defense getting a better effort to stop the run, and then also offensively, looking at a UAPB offense that is extremely balanced. Talk about those two things.
I'm sorry, say that a little bit again. I missed it just for 1 second. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was talking about Arkansas Pine Bluff and getting a better effort against the rush. Last week, they struggled stopping the run, and then offensively, they seem to be very balanced, and I think that's what they want to do. Talk about those two things going into the game with Southern University tonight.
Yeah, again, being able to establish an identity on the run really helped UAPB to be balanced, as you say. Kayvon Britton was able to be sprung again for some big yards. He's averaging a lot of yards per carry, and I mean, he gave UAPB's offense a big boost with 2 first-half touchdowns against Alcorn State, and they're going to have to rely on him a little bit against Southern's defense. Scalaperia, as I said earlier, has a deeper wide receiver core to work with defensively. It's just a matter of how consistent can UAPB be, because they have some guys, they have some all-conference guys who've come back from last year, but not many. They do have some playmakers in the linebacker core, and that's kind of where you always begin with the defense. When you look at the identity of a defense, no matter what set you're in, when you look at a guy like Monroe Beard, like Isaac Peppers, who's really played well, although he kind of got moved down to the second string for UAPB. He's been a difference maker for the Golden Lions. The defensive front, they're doing pretty well with guys like Anas Lukman, who's a true freshman. A guy's just playing very well, and it's just a matter. They're not as experienced in the secondary, but they do have a good guy in Nathan Seward who can really get his hands on the ball. So it's just, can UAPB cover up Southern pretty well? Can they plug the holes, and can they match up really well against Southern's wide receivers?
And Charles, when I look at both of these teams, and we always talk about execution, we talk about talent on both sides, but I wonder where the mental aspect. And here's where I'm going with this. And I see you can jump in as well on this. You get your commentary, your comments. For UAPB, how much do they forget about last week? Because for the second year in a row, they had a big lead at home against Alcorn State the previous year, and then they lost. And then last week on the road at Alcorn, they're leading at halftime, and they're not able to finish both times. And then Southern University, they've had 2 weeks to stew about being shut out offensively at Texas Southern. So where, guys, do you think do we need to look at from the mental aspect or the makeup of both teams coming into this ball game, which, again, we can't say it enough, is very crucial, Charles?
Yeah, I think it's more crucial for UAPB. I mean, for the second year in a row, as you mentioned, they blew a big lead, 26-7, last year at Golden Lion Stadium, as well as they played in the first half, the Braves played just as poorly, and vice versa in the second half. And it was kind of the same deal again last week. We gave UAPB 2 touchdowns on 2 short fields. We went for it on a 4th and 1 from our 21, didn't get it, and they scored. Gave them another short field, and they scored their second touchdown. I think for UAPB, to me, I think the bigger deal is, can you bounce back after a tough loss like they suffered last week? Because right now, and for Southern and for UAPB, this is, to me, you're not going to get their bowl. Whoever loses this game is not going to get there. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, UAPB lost the all-corner division game, and I've been saying these kind of games count for you twice, actually, when you lose them, because you got to finish ahead of that team because you lose out on a tiebreaker. Southern lost to Texas Southern, another division loss. So whoever loses this game is probably not going to get there. I mean, if you just want to be brutally honest, that's your favorite phrase, Carlos, not going to happen. I do think there's more pressure for UAPB to prove that the Alcorn loss, yet again, is a fluke, and they're going to try to bounce back. For Southern University, it's pressure, playing their first division game at home under Eric Dooley, 2 weeks to stew about it. And I think there's pressure there too, playing at home. So I think for UAPB, they just want to prove that they can bounce back from week to week. I think that's the key for me. For Southern University, it's on a whole nother different level, a whole nother different discussion, because Southern was picked to win the West. And if they don't win this game, they're probably not going to win the West. So I think it's a whole different set of pressure and a whole different set of circumstances.
Well, it's pressure both ways. Every week it's pressure. And, win the week, that's what you talk about. You got to go 1-0 this week. And I will say this, Charles and I say, for both teams, if you're still thinking about last week, I know it's painful. I know it's embarrassing. Some of the adjectives, that's just a few that were used for both fan bases. But you got to have a mentality now like a defensive back. Hey, I gave up an 80-yard touchdown. I can't think about that play anymore. I got to be focused on today. Because if you do, I think it just messes you up mentally. Go ahead, IC.
I think UAPB forgot about that loss by the time they got back on the practice field Monday. This is a wide open conference. And I've said that even with Jackson State being as dominant as they've been the last year or two in the conference, this is wide open. You have, in my opinion, a conference of 10 to 12 equally good football teams. There are always going to be at least 2 football teams that can't match up with the other 10. UAPB matched up pretty well with Alcorn State. They plugged some holes wrong, as Coach Gamble said during the coaches' teleconference, and that's what allowed a guy like Howard to break a 78-yard run there in the fourth quarter and break the game open. I think they look at it on practice, and then once they have a chance to work that kink out, it's forgotten about. I mean, Southern is a name brand of its own, and for a school that's only been in the SWAC 25 years, like the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, you just want to score a win against a brand name program. You missed the opportunity at Alcorn, but I mean, actually, you played better than the score indicated, 38-21. You just got out to a fast lead, and a good team like Alcorn and Coach McNair made the necessary adjustments. And when you have a talented back like Jarvion Howard, who was able to find different holes, who was able, to find some holes and exploit some things in UAPB's defense, that kind of made all the difference there. So UAPB, they're worried about Southern. They're worried about getting a win against a brand name company and a brand name team in Southern University. And Carlos, you said something pretty important. The last time UAPB went down to Baton Rouge, and it was during a trying season, March of 2021, UAPB won that game 33-30. They got off to a really hot start in that game as well. I think it was 30-3 or something like that. I could be wrong, and then it ended up 33-30, but UAPB held on to win that football game. So anything can go in this game here, because when I was looking at the stats for Southern, they don't have like just one dominant player on either side of the ball. They have a collection of players. They dominate by committee if they're going to dominate. But UAPB, they have to have some standout guys on both sides of the ball who can carry them and who can help them to either make the right play or make the key stops. So this is a case where I think UAPB, if they can just find where Southern is weak, and if they can make Southern work for it, tire them a little bit, UAPB can score a brand name victory, and that brand name victory is going to give them all the confidence that they need to go forward in this conference race. It's what outside of Jackson State, and especially in the Western Division, it's still a bit wide open. One loss will not necessarily cost you the conference championship. I don't think whoever wins the West with one loss will suffer the same fate that Florida A&M did on the East last year.
I see. If
Mhm.
UAPB is to win, what's the key for them? 3 quick things.
3 quick things. Well, number one, go ahead and get off to a fast start. Don't worry about blowing the fast start, but just maintain your intensity. Put together 4 quarters. Establish what you're going to establish from start to finish. If you're going to score throwing the ball, keep throwing it down them. If you're going to establish the run, and you'll have to at times, keep doing that and wear out the Southern defense. I think the second thing is defensively, find out who's going to be the key player for Southern University and key in on them. But, you can't just double team on anybody. Everybody's got to do 1/11th of a team's job when they're out there on the football field. And then number 3, if you get opportunities on special teams, take advantage of those. Get points either way you can. Or if you're on offense and you're facing 4th down, you're facing a short field, be sure you convert your 3rd and 4th downs.
Well, appreciate the time, I see, driving. Appreciate you being patient with us. We had to make some adjustments, just like on a football game. But hey, we're still here to be able to perform. Godspeed.
So always enjoy the talk to
Be
you guys.
safe. Be safe, and we'll talk again real soon.
Yes, sir. I hope I see you at the game tonight.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, I
All
see.
right.
Appreciate
Charles, good to see you as
the time.
well. You guys be
Good to
careful.
see you, Icy. Be safe.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care. IC is on his way to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We can't state it enough. ESPN Plus, 6 p.m. Santoria Black Charles is on the play-by-play call, and Ken Moore, color analyst. Also, Carlos James. He's going to be the color analyst on their radio call, along with, LaRon Marbley, play-by-play. So, did you get a chance to see Carlos James last week?
I did. I did. We had a long conversation. We talked some baseball, and we talked about the baseball tournament. There's some discussions about that still ongoing. I asked him about the MLB Invitational in Florida. He believes that's a different version of what we see in New Orleans. They're different MLB urban academies. So that was just kind of his thoughts on it, just talking to him from a basic level. But it's good to see him, Carlos. Good to see him back out and about. Because the last time I saw him this spring, he was still, trying to deal with COVID. It really hit him seriously, really, really hard. And when I saw him, he was still trying to get it going, and he looks really, really good. So it's good to see him. Good to see him doing some radio stuff, and he knows his football. There's no question about it. Even though he's the head baseball coach at UAPB, so it was so good to see Carlos James.
On that note, we'll take a quick time out. When I come back, going to be visiting with Quincy Richard. Charles Edmonds, he's a former Southern University quarterback, now a local attorney. And here's the thing, you talk about made my day when I was able to talk with him. And, LaShawn McCray and the offense, they've been struggling. I know that's an understatement. But I'm going to let Quincy tell you what he told me. And you know what? It makes sense. We'll put it together, and he'll tell you about how he had just a tremendous season. And how did he have that season? What he shared with me was what former Coach Oliver had him to do, and then it made everything for him so simple. And that 2003, I was watching that Bayou Classic against Grambling State, Bruce Eugene, over 1,000 yards of offense. Quincy Richard beat the struggle. He'll tell you how. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
If you think I'll...
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. And once again, we appreciate you tuning in. We had to make some adjustments, but we're here now. My next guest is no stranger to Southern University. And, man, I was looking at the highlights. Quincy Richard, former Southern University quarterback, now a father, now an attorney. Quincy, good afternoon. I almost said good morning, but good afternoon. Welcome to the Carlos Brown Show.
Oh, no, good afternoon to you. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. Serious conversation. We talked, and Southern University, of course, coming off of 24-0 loss to Texas Southern. Then had a bye week. Everyone is wondering what's going on with the offense. The struggles with Sean McCray, but you told me something, and after I thought about it, it makes sense because you kind of went through the same thing back in your collegiate day at Southern University. I want you to just kind of share because I mean you know the position, I don't. Charles Edmond calls the game, but he's no former quarterback. Neither am I. But let's just kind of talk about the struggles, and then how you were able to have that. And I point back to that terrific season in 2003, I believe. If I don't get that right, Quincy, I'll charge it to my head in a middle age moment. But you told me something that Coach Oliver had you to do, and it made the world of difference.
Yeah. When we talked the other day. I told you McCray is super, super talented. He's super athletic, has all the tools that you need as a quarterback. He just has to, and it'll come throughout the season, understand what he's looking at. And when I say understand what he's looking at as far as defenses, keys, and just clues that he'll understand better and be able to make adjustments during the play and not pre-snap read every play. And then, because what happens then, you're able to read through your first read, maybe your second read, but then you also revert back to what you know best. And that's usually running the ball. And that's why you see a lot of running that he does, because he's not trusting his eyes maybe and just process it. But he's ridiculously talented. Unlike everybody else, I don't worry about him or any of the quarterbacks on the roster. I know Coach Dooley does a great job with teaching, which is what he's going to learn throughout the season. And once everybody will see once the light bulb clicks for him, and he'll be able to go through all his progressions, and you'll probably see less running and more passing. And then his receivers will get more comfortable understanding space and proximity to everybody and be able to make adjustments too, and it'll click. Everybody's panicking, but you got to understand with the SWAC, the first couple games, we call them the money games that you usually play, and you learn your team, you learn different defense a lot of time. Now you get into the meat of your schedule, and now everybody, the rubber hits the road, and he'll be fine. He'll be fine. They'll all be fine.
Now, you told me, Coach, former, I guess, offensive coordinator Coach Oliver, now the head coach at Santa Monica High School locally, he had you to do something, and you said it made the world of difference for you. What was that?
He had me sitting in a lot of defensive meetings. And he had me sit in a lot of defensive meetings because he said, once you understand that if a linebacker drops, that means underneath is open, or if he comes up, that means the center of the field is open, and understand the concepts of defenses. And when he had me do that, I was able to process a lot more and a lot quicker because I understood the concepts that they were going to do. Because just cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, they all end up being the same thing once you understand where everybody goes. And he had me sit there and watch a lot of the defensive meetings, film, and truth be told, I think he might even send me to the scout team a couple of times just to understand the concept. Because football is all about concepts, and everybody does a version of the same thing. It's just who can process it the fastest and get it to where it needs to be. And that's where you see the difference in teams.
And then too, Quincy, now you tell me, your protection, your O lineman, that works in conjunction with what you're seeing. And so, with that being said, did it click immediately after several meetings, or it was instantly?
No, it wasn't instantly. It's a process because you have to. It's so much going on with every snap. It's so many people moving because when you put stuff on the whiteboard, the X's and the O's make sense until one X moves, and then another one moves, and now everything's a little different. So it was a long process, and broke it down to maybe the fundamentals of football. And when you understand that, football can be a simple game. But he had me do that a lot, and it made the world a difference because at every level it gets a little more complicated. It gets a little more faster. But when you really understanding everything, it slows back down for you, and everybody's moving in slow motion because you're just comfortable and it's reacting, and you almost can predict what some people do, and so you're anticipating that happening, and it comes. But it was a long time. I mean, this is spring, summer, during the season. It's a lot of film watching, and sometimes he would just have me just stand back there, literally just stand back there, and you could see the choreographed dance of of defenses and offenses and protections because in the SWAC we don't have many 6'7", 305 rock hard linemen. We have a lot of athletes playing line, and so you have to be able to make sure that if that guy's unblocked, he's yours, and if not, you'll hear the crowd say "ooh" when you realize you messed up because they smacking you.
Man, that's interesting, Charles. Just Quincy talking about the concepts and the foundation, and it's a process. And then too, from a mentality standpoint, a quarterback is the leader, but then he's the blunt of the criticism a lot of times. But
Oh,
he didn't miss the protection, so that's a tough thing. So I guess I'm saying you got to have a certain mentality, and I guess if you don't have it, you have to learn quickly to get tougher mentally. Am I off base on that, Quincy?
um, not really. I always say quarterback is the position that gets way too much praise and way too much blame. Um, but the mentality comes. But I was fortunate enough to have 10 other guys that where I fell short, they picked me up, and vice versa. And so I don't want to put it all on the quarterback. It's. I heard the last guest say it's 1/11th of the offense, and um, I was thankful those guys really did a lot for me as far as helping me also understand because we all did the defensive meetings, so that way maybe I missed a blitz or somebody coming up, and that's where a receiver was able to point it out to me and catch my attention because we all understood the concepts and the goal of what we was trying to get to. And so the quarterback has to be that, but I don't want to put it all on him because if he throws a perfect pass and they never catch it, then and vice versa. And if they
Yeah.
run a great route and he never throws it, so everybody has to be working in harmony. And it's just fortunately the quarterback gets a lot of attention, but you got to be ready for that attention when it comes because the lights get bright, and he just has to have a team that'll be there to support him and have his back on the ups and downs, and sometimes just make a play for him because football is
Right.
so mental to where um, you can throw a screen pass and it turns into a 70-yard touchdown, and it goes in as a quarterback. You're clicking now. Everybody's excited, and you roll off of momentum. And so they just got to help him and pick him up and just be his protector in all phases, mentally, physically, spiritually, because it can take a toll on you. And when McCray moves well, they all move well. The defense gets excited, put points up. The fans. I'm an offensive guy, so of course I love points. The crowd loves points. I don't know about that defense wins championships things. I'm an offensive guy, but it does it does build a lot of momentum for him. And once he gets in his rhythm, the team gets in their rhythm, and I'm confident. I've known Coach Dooley since I was 17 years old. I'm a little older than 17 right now, but a long time. And no doubt in my mind he's going to get him ready. Matter of fact, I
Right.
talked to him Thursday, and he was super confident. He's like, he's going to be okay. He just has to get back to um, trusting his abilities too, because
Yeah.
you got to remember something got him there, and once he realizes that he has super talent, he'll be all right. I'm not as worried as everybody else. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
overconfident, but I think he'll be okay, and I think they'll be okay. Especially coming back, it's nothing like um, playing a home game after a loss like that, because now you're playing in front of your family, your friends, your classmates, everyone, and you want to do well for them because if you don't, if you thought you heard about that loss the Monday after Texas Southern, just wait till Monday comes this week.
Charles, if you have a question for Quincy Richard, and Charles did say he remembered you, Quincy, he calls the games for the Alcorn State radio network.
Man,
Charles, have
it's
at
crazy.
it.
But wait. Fun fact before he even starts talking. 03,
Yeah.
we lost one game. So
I know.
one game. And that game just so happened to be on the day I was born. My birthday. And so I can remember like yesterday. Maybe that might have been why we lost, because I had the biggest part in my head playing after we beat Alcorn and celebrate, and then in the back of the end zone we lose. So I give him
Oh,
that.
yeah. I think that was Mr. Spiller, if I'm not mistaken. He got 1 foot in, then that's all you needed.
I remember it. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. The way I look at the Southern, and we got Southern in a couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to coming down there. Coach Dooley coming back home, first year as head coach of Southern University. You talked about McRae. He's a JUCO coming from that rank. Do you think that transition? And I think a lot of fanfare with Coach Dooley winning the West last year, Prairie View, coming home, and a lot of the Southern fans love his hires. Just that whole pressure coming home, and it should be easy when it's not. Then you lose to Texas Southern, get shut out for the first time in 50 years against Texas Southern, and a lot of people are kind of set back by it. But then you have a quarterback in McRae who's still learning the system, and Coach Dooley's learning him. So this learning curve, and I know in sports today there is no honeymoon. Carlos talked about it, the honeymoon period is over, but there still is a honeymoon period in putting this thing together. Are people kind of overdoing this? And I know Aaron Rodgers says relax. Is that kind of where the Jaguar Nation needs to be? Relax. It's going to be okay. It's just his first year on the job at Southern University. Is there a panic mode there? And should there be? I mean, there's pressure with coaching. There's no question about it. There's pressure being the quarterback. There's no question about that. But when your quarterback and coach come in at the same time and you're trying to learn the systems and learn each other, there is a learning curve, albeit Florida Memorial, albeit LSU, albeit Texas Southern. It's just the fourth game, and the learning curve after 3 games just isn't there. So is the panic that I'm feeling from the Jaguar Nation, is it warranted or unwarranted? Is it still early? Everybody just needs to take a deep breath.
I don't think it's time to hit the panic button, because you got a lot of people got to understand the dynamics of college football has changed for everybody, period. Because you have a first year coach coming back, you have your quarterback coming back, but now with the transfer portal and things like that, sometimes you may have 6 of your 11 starters just meeting each other in the fall. And I don't. It's just going to take some time. The SWAC is one of those leagues to where it's true, any given night you can be beat. It just takes a turn of a ball here, a turn of a ball there. And I think a lot of people are panicking, but they got to realize that Coach Richard always tell us this. They have kids on scholarship too at them other teams. And so the dynamics of college football to where Texas Southern is building their recruiting back up, and so they may have stronger kids, and so with every school. So, yeah, maybe we might have beat Texas Southern 9 out of 10 times in the 80s and 90s and 2000. But you got to understand that they have a coaching staff that's working hard. They have kids that are working hard, and maybe they just got better this year. It doesn't necessarily mean that we had a bad day. Maybe they just got better, which is totally possible. But I think it's too early in the season for anybody to hit the panic button, because you really don't even know what you have right now. Because they hadn't played a lot of SWAC games, so you don't have a bunch of film on a bunch of other teams. I heard you guys talk about who's the star players and who's not. You're really filling it out that'll work itself out. But the SWAC is getting better, period. And it's a good thing for the league, HBCUs. And I think once people realize that and enjoy the moment and not necessarily look to the past, but enjoy the present moment and look forward to the progression that each player, team, coach is making, then I think that it'll be a lot more enjoyable for everybody.
Let me ask you this, Quincy, real quick. Do you think, considering the difficulty of the loss 2 weeks ago, and I know the Jaguar Nation, some still stewing over it. Carlos said last week he's gotten over it. I know some Jaguar fans haven't gotten over it. And it's been 2 weeks. This bye week, do you think was that a good thing, or do you think as a player, considering the difficulty of that loss, would you like to just get back out there 7 days later and prove that it was a fluke? Do you think that bye week, you think people are still stewing over it, players still stewing over, you try to move on, but everybody's on social media, people are still talking about it. Would you have liked to see a bye week? Would that have helped, or just getting back out there last week, would that have helped to try to get the stench off that loss?
I actually think the bye week was a good thing because maybe they might have panicked a little more if they went dead into a game and not actually be able to look at the good things they did in that game and the bad things they did in that game and make those corrections. And also, you got to remember too, these kids have been gone since maybe early mid August, practicing, and so they played LSU. They played a bunch of football in a month and a half time span. So just a down period just to have a mental release and a physical release and get your body rejuvenated. I think that actually probably helped a lot. And it gives you a little bit more time to prepare for your next opponent. So you know a little bit more of the tendencies and their weaknesses and strengths. So, and this a different kid today too. There's there's so many things getting their attention to where I don't think they have the opportunity to stew over losses because the newest, hottest, whatever is catching their attention. And as much as social media can be a bad thing for them, I think they can also they're using it more as a motivator too because they like seeing the great comments, they like seeing the praises, and it's that instant gratification that they can get right now that they going to use as a motivation for this week and the weeks to come. But I think that it was actually a good thing. It was probably a blessing in disguise. And truth be told, as a player, I think the fans probably put a lot more emphasis on things that players don't. Like, we're sad we lost, but we know we got to get ready for another game when you're playing. And so you just want to make improvements. And I think that by a week, you'll see a bunch of little nicks and neck injuries that may have been lingering for the last couple of weeks. They heal a little more, so you see a little more pep in somebody's step. They get their second win, and I think it actually was a good thing. And there's nothing better off of bye week than to come and play a swag game and prove to everybody who was wrong.
And Quincy, one of the things that as we'll go back to Coach Dooley when he was introduced as a 20th, I believe, head football coach at Southern University, and immediately I saw the former players that rallied around him because, truth be told, I didn't feel the same thing, albeit still early. And of course, Coach Dooley, 13 years under the icon Coach Richardson, but I just you didn't kind of see or get that feeling of the former players were as close to the previous coach, but that was then. This is now. How important is that for Southern University football? Because that could make a big difference now and in the future.
I, I want everybody to understand this part of Coach Dooley. The reason a lot of us came back and are coming back because we go to the hotel and talk to the team now. But the reason we do that is because Coach Dooley was when we played, he was equally as concerned about our stats as our grades, as our families, as our friend. He cared about the person, not just a player and not just a number on a jersey. And so when he did that for us, it only made sense for us to pay that respect back because he is family to us. Um, and I tell everybody it'll pay huge going forward because unlike the Power Five conferences, graduates from Southern usually become, if they want to stay in the game, they become high school coaches. And so when they become high school coaches, it'll make it easier for Coach Dooley to go into the locker room of a high school and talk to a kid or talk to a family because um, his former players gonna vouch for him and give that confidence in the family that if that kid chooses Southern University, that they are going to a place to where um, the coach wants to see your son progress from a young boy to a man and just win not only in football but in life. And that's the advantage that Southern's going to have with Coach Dooley because he, not only to mention he's from New Orleans, where, in my opinion, probably some of the best talent in not just Louisiana, the country comes from that area. And so when he can go in and get those kids and speak to the families and talk to that history, that tradition, and say, I'm gonna send your son back a man and ready for the world, then you'll see Southern University continue to keep going up and up. Um, and that's why I really do think that Southern fans need to see the bigger picture and not just a 24-0 loss to Texas Southern. Will it be this year? I hope. But if it doesn't, I'm confident that Coach Dooley can go in the living room of some kid, some family, and bring the pieces that he needs in, and as well as mold the pieces that he already have. Because you got to remember, um, he don't know a lot of those kids. That's the previous administration's recruits and schemes, and so he has to find a way to fit those kids that he have into his scheme, and they have to find a way to do what they do best and make it a perfect marriage. That way, you can see the end product. But um, it's going to take a little more time than a couple months. Um,
Right. I understand.
and that's with every team.
Point well taken. Travis has a question and kind of a comment question, and I kind of tie it in. And once again, appreciate your time, Quincy, here on the Carlos Brown Show. He says Quincy was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in Jaguar history. Carlos asked him, do he know what was his number his senior year at this point? He says, I think he had the same numbers as Shadua Sanders, maybe more. And Quincy, we talked about that 2003 as you see the highlights from the Bayou Classic. But you told me something, and I guess I didn't realize it. You only played, and that offense was so explosive, and correct me if I'm wrong, you only played 2 complete games in that season?
Two.
Wow.
Alcorn, you know what happened. The result of that game, and the Bayou and the Bayou Classic. We were beating people to where um, we probably third quarter we were and letting everybody else get a chance. But and what that did also was get some other kids some film time, and so you seen those guys getting film time, and now they're getting in the game, and it just pays forward. You mentioned Sanders. That kid is nice. I mean, as much you got to call a spade a spade. He's a nice kid, but you could tell, and it'll tie back into what I said about understanding concepts. You could tell he's well trained in what he's looking at, and it's not luck throws he's making. He's understanding time and space and proximity of what defenses are doing and reading them and getting the ball to the right spots. But that kid is super, super talented. Um, I wish him the best, unless they're playing us. Um, then I hope he doesn't do as well. But I think I saw his stats the other day. He might be at like 12, 13, 1,400 yards already, maybe, which is amazing. and his accuracy. I watched a couple of their games, and when you're finishing games with 4 or 5 incompletions, you're really doing something. But he also has receivers, and you could tell everybody understanding what needs to be done. And it's just a choreographed dance, and it looks beautiful when they do it together. And but I like that kid. I wish him the best. I mean, he reminds me a lot of the old Jackson State quarterback, Robert Kent, who was we used to call Superman.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Daryl Asbury.
No,
I remember that.
no, Robert Kent, man. Robert Kent was
And
amazing.
Daryl Asbury still avoiding me for some reason, but I'll catch him. He's in Baton Rouge.
But yeah, no, Sanders is great, and I actually like what Coach Brown was doing for the SWAC, HBCUs, period. And I think it's only going to better the whole conference, and you'll see more and more top level talent, not just considering the HBCUs and SWAC, but actually going to them. And it'll elevate everybody and make everybody step up. So hats off to, I guess, that whole Sanders family for what they're doing for HBCU football right now.
Last question. Senior year, do you remember how many passing yards you had? I have a number in my head, but
I don't. This is why I wish my dad was sitting right next to me, because my dad remembers all the numbers. He probably can tell you the incompletions, the interceptions. I don't. It may be 35, maybe 3,500. No,
that's
no, it
what,
wasn't
that's what I
that
was
high.
thinking. 33 to 3,500. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
maybe
I
something
tell
like
you
that.
what, somebody will remember. You know, you have a lot of smart people watching these shows, but um, and excuse me, I won't go too deep into this. I said that was the last question, but I remember me and my best friend were talking on campus, and lo and behold, there's Quincy Richard coming. We had a talk, and I'm glad you considered and you stayed the course. And that 2003 season just special. And you know, after that season, let me tell you what me and my best friend said. Man, we wish Quincy had one more year because we saw how you went from A to Z just like that. And now it makes sense from our conversation the other night.
But you got to
Concepts.
remember too, though. You got to remember too, though. That team was full of people from that had waited their time, um, got bigger, stronger because we all came in 99 and 2000 together. So we had been together for a long time. And so we were really like a family. And there's a lot of people on that team that made me look a hell of a lot better than I really was. I'm eternally grateful for them and to them. And we still all talk to this day. And I don't know if college football can have teams like that with the landscape it is of today's football. Um,
Yeah, it's
Staying the case.
quick
I hope they do.
gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they do because beyond football, now we're getting older and now we're meeting up and our kids are knowing each other, and so it's creating a whole nother generation of family for us, and it means a hell of a lot. But those guys are. They give me a lot. Once again, they give me a way more credit than I deserve because those guys were pretty awesome. You got to Chris Davis and Alfred Ard and James Vernon, because I think Vernon was maybe the 4th or 5th receiver on that team who the next year's was all world because he was hell of a talented. He just waited his time, and I think Coach Zula's gonna find a way to do that for this team that bring it back that magic, and it'll pay it forward. I just need my diehard Jaguar fans to understand that it's a process and support him and the guys because that goes a long way. I can tell he's a former player. Just having, like you said, that conversation we had at the basketball game, and just somebody saying it'll get better and support, because you get down on yourself quick. And my dad always says, nobody needs anybody when they're at the bottom. When they're at the top, it's the bottom that you need everybody to lift the rising tide, lift all boats. And so today I think you'll see a difference, and a win. I'm calling it. I'm calling it right now, and I'm calling Alcorn too.
I hear you on that. Quincy, it has been a pleasure interviewing you. You won't be a stranger. I'll bring you back, and next time we come back, we'll talk some more, and then we'll let you have a chance to get some picks in. You know, my pleasure in life is to try to have a better record for the week against Charles Edmond when we're picking, because he's a smooth operator. But hey, when Alcorn comes in a couple of weeks, I'm going to make. I hope they let me give the pregame. Let me run them out on the field. I don't ask for much. Alcorn and Jackson State. Not that they need any motivation, and I'll quietly go over to the medical tent afterwards to see Quincy. You're much younger than I am. But
I appreciate you guys. I really do. I appreciate you guys for having me on. Just talking football, period. With so much going on right now, it's good to have that release and just talk something fun and have fun. So I appreciate you guys. I don't know who Alcorn's playing, but good luck if they are. And
we're off this week
in a couple weeks, y'all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Alcorn's off this week, and Jackson State. Interesting, huh? Okay. But two of the teams that you get fired up for, and boy, say no more. Jackson State. You know what? I'm just going to be quiet until
Alcorn has been steady building the program too. Alcorn has steady been building the program.
They're very good. Very good program.
10, 15 years. I'll give credit where it's due. They've been steady building that program, and they have a pipeline of recruits from somewhere out there that they've been able to capture, and they're getting better. No, not getting better. They are good. And we always respected them. We always knew it was going to be a game. But it's just the SWAC is getting better, and it's more fun to watch.
Yeah, it definitely is. So you and your family continue to stay safe and be blessed. And we'll talk again real soon. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of the weekend,
thank you.
Quincy.
Love, man. Love. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Thanks a lot. That was Quincy Richard. And Charles, that kind of brings things back into perspective. I host this show, co-host. I'm an alum. I'm a fan as well. And truly, Charles, I have gotten over last week. But you know what? That crowned the moment for me. Yes, that's true. That's true, because I'm getting older. I'm in my middle ages now, heading toward the upper room. But it just makes sense. It's a process, and maybe sometimes the emotional part, the fan part, comes out. And last week I had to just get stuff off my chest, and I'm not gonna go back into that, last week discussion. But I will say this: if you're talking about a coach after one loss and the kids, and some feeling, oh, he's not the guy, I've lost faith. That's what I was referring to. Shame on you. And you're silly. You're still silly for that. But anyway, Quincy dropped some inside, information about going through some of the same things that McCray. And what did he talk about? Concepts. In those meetings, it's a process. And let's see. Let's just see what happens tonight at 6 p.m. Charles, I know you'll be tuning in on ESPN Plus to watch.
Absolutely. I'm anxious to see, and I know you're going to be asking for predictions. So I have an interesting take on this game tonight, Southern and UAPB, as well as Valley and Florida A&M. But it is early. But unfortunately, and we just have to be in the moment. Unfortunately, that's just not how fandom is. Yes, you and I and others are kind of dinosaurs. You build a program, it takes time, all of that. We get that. We know that. We understand that. But unfortunately, fandom is not like that in 2022. You want to
Well,
see
Charles, don't say we're dinosaurs, okay?
we're dinosaurs in terms
uh,
of
we are
understand.
chameleons.
Well, that too. I get that too.
Well, we change.
We
We
understand.
change with the times.
We change, but I think we understand that you have to build a program block by block. Unfortunately, in today's world of mega bucks, NIL, and I think even with what Jackson State's doing to Coach Sanders. I mean, a day ago, that team you didn't even hear about them as far as them in the championship conversation. They've been through Harold Jackson and Comedy and those other coaches, that James Bell. And now you see where they are right now in the facilities and how they're just taking off leaps and bounds. And it's got people, accelerating their processes a little bit. But it still takes a little bit of time in most cases. And I think Southern University is in that boat. For us, it's taken a little time. For the first time, you have a quarterback on our roster that wasn't there last year, Aaron Allen. He's still trying to figure it out. He threw for under 100 yards last week, but yet we scored 38 points because we ran for almost 400 yards. So it takes a little time. It's a little bit different dynamic. But fans looking at it right here and right now and just the ever-changing landscape, and they think it's just supposed to automatically change with it. It doesn't always happen that way. So I think what Quincy Richard said is exactly right. You just have to take a deep breath. But when you have this great hire, and I think it was a great hire, hiring Dooley coming back home, I think people assumed and expected it for all to just fall in place right away. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And right now it's a little bit of a struggle. And I'm anxious to see how Southern, playing at home, coming off a loss in the division and in conference, how they're going to bounce back following a bye week. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a huge test. You said it last week, Carlos, under the previous administration at Southern, when their backs were against the wall, what happened? They found a way to fight back and get to the championship game. It's going to be interesting to see, because even though it's a long season, when you lose a division game like that, and even though it's kind of equal on the Western side, it's wild. It's early, but it's late if you lost a division game, because now you're relying on tiebreakers. Now it's kind of out of your hands. You can do everything right, but if the team that you lost to doesn't do their part, which is lose, you haven't gained any ground. So this is a big game coming up for Southern and UAPB, and I'm anxious to see how both teams respond.
It's a big game because it's the next game as well. You still have to win the week. And the moment is now. Got to go 1-0 this week. We know Alcorn's coming in, and you got Prairie View the following week, but laser focus on today. You win the week. BJ is awaiting us, so we're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we still have to go over last week's games in the conference. We'll also preview this week's schedule. Also, there's plenty more to talk about. Key matchup tonight, Jordan Lewis, Southern University versus UAPB left tackle, Mark Evans. You got a matchup there. Can Arkansas Pine Bluff plug the defense? Texas Southern 2 weeks ago had gave up 300 yards of rushing in consecutive games. Southern was not able to make it 3 games in a row to establish the run. Southern is still leading the conference in rushing, but it's the passing offense that everyone is looking for marked improvement. Can Bashawn McCray get it done? Also, according to a source, there's that word, that Bubba McDaniels has kind of been getting some work with the number 2s. If McCray struggles, will we see McDaniels? A whole lot of intrigue coming into this 6 p.m. game against University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'll have my prediction on that game. Charles will have his. Charles, if I didn't know any better, I think you're not doubting Thomas, but you're sounding the alarm. This is a must game for Southern University. But we'll have all of that with BJ. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
They're exactly the same. Think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Boy, we've got all colors represented. Gold, yellow, purple. Charles Edmond, now BJ Jones joins us. BJ, good afternoon. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, Carlos, man. How's it going?
Well, it's going all right. Hey, it's another Saturday, another chance for teams to get better. The last time we talked to you, of course, Southern 24-0 loss to Texas Southern. They've had 2 weeks to stew over that, but hopefully they hadn't had to be, stewing on that for the whole 2 weeks. They've gotten past that. BJ, in your career, have you ever been in a situation where you lost a you lost a game, you were disappointed, and now from a mental standpoint, I keep focusing on the mental, you have to get better and have kind of a short memory. Have you ever been in that situation in your playing career or coaching?
Yes, I was on the team. I was on the team in 2005 that went to Itta Bena, Mississippi, and lost to Mississippi Valley. Remember that one?
Yeah, and they're allowed to back
Yeah.
on the bus, right? Okay,
Yes.
okay, because when I hear that, the last time Southern I can remember got shut out was against Valley on national TV, and Coach Odoms took over after that. But it's tough. Everybody's down on you. You hear, and I know all teams go through that. Do you think Prairie View student athletes, when they had that 88 game losing streak? I'm not comparing one loss to 88, but you get my drift. I think you gotta kind of live in the moment, short memory, and be laser sharp. What about this Southern University team tonight? 6
The
p.m.
biggest
against
thing is, man,
UAB.
you can't let that Texas Southern loss turn into a second loss. You have to get that game behind you and focus on the regular season. If you play this season the way that you're capable of, then it puts you in position where you can make it to the conference championship game. All right. But you can't let that loss linger on and cause you a second loss and then a third. And then after that, it starts snowballing. So you have to have a short memory, get back in the lab, look at the things where you made mistakes, work on those growth opportunities, and continue to strengthen your strengths. The season is long. I tell people all the time, this is chess. This ain't checkers. People be wanting to crown a champion the second, third week of the season, and that's not the way it works.
Interesting. Well, I'm kind of getting two concepts. Charles is saying that, and I'm sure he's agreeing with what we're saying, what you're saying, But I feel a but is coming. But it's the moment with they're in a. It's almost like I don't want to put words in my mouth. Charles, is it a dire situation or is just a concerning situation? Is where you're going with this?
It's a concerning situation. I mean, it's still early. There's no doubt about it. But I look at these schedules, and I know we don't talk about it quite enough, but Southern is in a front-loaded division schedule early on. All right, so you just lost to Texas Southern. You got a bye week. You got UAPB, you got Prairie View, and you got Alcorn. You can't afford to lose another game at this point. You still got 2/3 of the season to go. Another loss right now, you can pretty much pull the plug. Pretty much, because now you got to look at the tiebreakers. It's one thing when you're playing a team from the East and you can use that game to leverage if you win in the West. But you just lost to a Western Division opponent. Then you got another. Then you got another. Tiebreakers will catch up with you. The calendar catches up with you. The schedule catches up with you because you run out of games and the calendar, you run out of time. So that's why it's concerning. Just think about it right now. I mean, Southern doesn't have a tiebreaker on Texas Southern. Any tiebreak they lose out on. That's one team. If Southern doesn't bounce back, then you got Pine Bluff that you lost out on, as well as Texas Southern. So it's concerning. You got a first-year coach. You got McRae. Is he the guy? There's still questions there. I mean, and I understand it. You got a first-year head coach, first-year quarterback at this level, still trying to learn, as Quincy Richard said in the last segment. For me, it's just a little bit concerning if I'm a fan of the SWAC and following Southern. I know BJ, being a former player, is a long season, but there's some things they definitely have to work on. Getting out of the gates fast. The first pass, I believe, against Texas Southern was a turnover. You had 3 turnovers. The defense played lights out in the second half, but you can't start out slow. And Carlos, you've said this so many times. When Southern is playing at home, the expectation from fans, whether it's at the Baby Dome, whether it's at Mumford, whether it's at Heinz Field, there's a little bit of angst, I would imagine, from the Jaguar Nation because of what happened a couple weeks ago. So Southern's going to have to start fast. They're going to have to play fast and play from out in front. If not, if they lose this game, it's going to be tough to get to where they want to be. Everybody expects them, the prognosticators expect Southern to win the West. They don't win this game, it's probably not going to happen. On paper, you can map it out, but in reality, probably not. So that's why I'm saying it's a little bit concerning, not desperate, but a little bit concerning. You get shut out 2 weeks ago, how you bounce back? That, to me, is the big question.
Okay. Now, with that being said, what if? What if they win the next 2? What if they win tonight and then they go to Prairie View, then they come home and they beat Alcorn? See, that's what I'm saying. I know the focus is on that, but BJ, what if they get on a winning streak? The quarterback play gets better. I just concerning, yes, not desperate. And in a season, a lot of times, who can overcome adversity? Because you're going to face it. Southern's facing it early. BJ?
Hey, if that happens, you're talking about 2 very, very happy Jags on this side. I don't know how Charles will be feeling over there when we beat Alcorn, but man, it
Well, I'm
lets you
sure
know,
he'll
man,
find
it's week.
something.
But man, this thing is week to
Charles.
week. Yeah, man. It's week to week, man, and it's a long season. And you can get that momentum started tonight, but it starts tonight with Arkansas Pine Bluff. You got to go 1-0 from here on out, and you can't achieve those goals without doing that. So that's the most important thing, and I'm pretty sure, knowing Coach Dooley the way that I know him, that's what he's nailing home right now.
Well, with that being said, that is a big ball game. You could say that's the game of the week, but I think it's a co-game of the week of this week. But let's turn our attention quickly to last week, Saturday, September 24th. There's no question, my humble opinion, Jackson State is the number 1 team in the conference. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. 49-7 over Mississippi Valley State. Bethune-Cookman over Grambling State. There have been some fans that are not pleased with Grambling State. Quote, their coach, could we consider him in that category of celebrity coach? Like Coach Sanders, if you disagree, please feel free to tell me you disagree. Grambling loses to Bethune-Cookman 36-19. University of Texas San Antonio over Texas Southern. Texas Southern's playing up. They're coming off a big victory. They lost 52-24, but played tough. Played tough for the first half. FAMU over Alabama A&M 38-25. I'm hearing, I saw Coach Maynard is not happy. Kind of a quick handshake and some words exchanged with Willie Simmons. Emotions. Prairie View over Alabama State 24-15, and of course Alcorn State over Pine Bluff 38-21. BJ, Jackson State, number one in the conference right now. It's not even close. And I have to just be very transparent with that. And you know how I feel about Jackson State and Southern, that rivalry, but they are, without a doubt, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They're the best team in the conference right now.
No debate. No debate.
Charles, no debate?
No debate at all.
Boy, you sound so enthusiastic about that.
I mean,
I think you're looking for a reason.
Well, I mean,
to say, hold on.
They're good. They're good. I was looking at the Tennessee State game, and just the struggles there. And obviously, they trailed early against Valley. I mean, so we talk. There's no perfect situation, but right now, Jackson State has been dominant, especially in the second half. Against, they trailed early against Valley. Their defense was great against Tennessee State. So the word domination, that's what Coach Sanders uses, and clearly they have been dominant for the most part so far this year.
October 29th. That's going to be – I'll get to see Jackson State up close firsthand. Throw rivalries out when those two teams get together. But that's how it went last week. Any other game? BJ, Grambling State. Some of the fans are, I guess, putting Coach Jackson in the same category as far as disappointment with Coach Dooley 2 weeks ago. Do you believe Grambling State fans have a reason to be very concerned?
Relax. 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 I mean, if you look at Grambling, man, it looks like last week watching that ball game, they had the drops at the most inopportune times. Offensively, Grambling did what they wanted to do against Bethune-Cookman. There was a drop, a turnover, something that stalled out drives, and the special teams was horrendous. And they got to get that under control as they, head to face off against Prairie View in the State Fair Classic tonight.
That is going to be interesting as well. Well, let's kind of jump right into it. Saturday, a new month. Happy October. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm glad I got through that one. I'll have to tell you the story about a blooper. Take out cancer, and you'll see what I said. I said breast awareness. I left cancer out, and I had. It took me about 10 years to live that down. But it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in October. Bethune-Cookman at Alabama A&M. BJ, Alabama A&M. Very disappointing season so far. Can they get their first win today? It's on the Bulldog Sports Network. It's homecoming, 2 p.m.
Man, they better, man. There's a lot of people up there on the hill, man. Got high expectations. Feeling like, hey, if we don't bounce back here, Grambling comes to the hill next week. You could possibly be looking at 0-6 if you don't get this thing turned around quickly. Defensively, Alabama A&M playing a lot better. Offensively, they've been out to lunch. And that's kind of crazy. It's been the role reversal for Alabama A&M. And Bethune-Cookman, man, coming in, they feel like they let one get away against Alabama A&M a year ago in that Thursday night game. So they're coming in with a lot of momentum coming off that Grambling win.
Who do you have in this game? Man, this is a tough one. I highlighted who I thought would win, but I
I
want to
got
see what
Bethune
you and
Cookman.
Charles.
I think you can. Think you can. I think right now I'm leaning Bethune Cookman.
Charles?
Yeah, I'm leaning Bethune Cookman too. I mean, I go back even last year, the way they finished last season. You know, they beat Alcorn in one of the biggest upsets of the year a year ago. I think Coach Sims, and thoughts and prayers with folks down there. You know, I saw the video footage of
You're
their
right.
campus being hit, flooded. I mean, that's a tough situation down there. Of course, Mother Nature. We talk about that, but I do think that I think we should be surprised that their offense has been out to lunch, as BJ has said. You know, trying to replace a Quill Glass, we knew that was going to be a struggle. Did we think it would be this much of a struggle? I don't think so, but we knew that it was going to take a step back. So the growing pains offensively, I think Bethune Cookman's going to go to Huntsville and win this game. So I have Bethune winning.
Well, I'm going to be the dissenter here. Yeah, call me loony. Yeah, apparently I've been called worse. Alabama and them, no wins. It's homecoming. That can be distractions. I understand. Coach Richard used to talk about homecoming and distractions, but I think Alabama A&M. I think they're gonna play their best game of the season. Perfect game? No, but I think they're gonna get it done. And if I'm wrong on that prediction, I'll man up and say next week you guys were right. They didn't get it done. But that's a 2 p.m. game. Mississippi Valley State at FAMU. I'm assuming FAMU campus is okay. They dodged
Yeah,
most
they're
of
pretty good.
the inclement weather. FAMU is just slowly building up confidence, getting better each week. I like FAMU, and of course, Valley plays everybody tough. And I said Valley would perhaps be a better team, but their record may not reflect that. Charles, you said they were a sleeper. They were a dog horse. You got it on tape. They have been asleep offensively to me. But
Yeah.
you're going to be in a tough ball game. But I like FAMU in this ball game. Yay or nay from the other two on the panel?
FAMU.
I like BJ. Quick to the point.
FAMU, Valley, it has been a little bit of disappointment. I was expecting a little bit more from Valley at this point. It's a little early, but it's getting late. They got Alcorn coming up next week. That's going to probably be the one that's going to tilt the scales one way or the other, whether the season will slide down the drain or not. I think will be next week, but this is going to be a tough one. FAMU's getting their little mojo back after the Jackson State loss. I have FAMU.
Moving along, the state fair. And by the way, FAMU on the Sports Network will come to Pine Bluff and Southern last, but Prairie View A&M and Grambling State. Now you talk about a must-win, a team that needs a win. That's Grambling State, but very quietly, Prairie View A&M on a one-game winning streak. They're 2-0 in the conference. Hey, Prairie View wins today. They're the defending West champions. They have a new coach, but the coach that was previously on the staff. This game is on HBCU Go. Prairie View and Grambling State. BJ, who do you like?
Prairie View. I think Prairie View defensively, I like what they're able to do. That front seven, that defensive line from Prairie View is amazing. If you haven't seen them play, you might want to check them out tonight. They're questionable on the back end. Secondary is not as strong, but that defensive line is amazing. And Prairie View can run the football. Grambling has shown that they can't stop the run, and then that's a dangerous combination. So I like Prairie View to get it done. I think there's going to be 5 in a row for Prairie View over Grambling.
Charles?
Yeah, I have Prairie View as well. You know, going into this season, I didn't expect a whole lot from my alma mater. You know, with Hugh Jackson coming in, you know, the whole thing with the G on the side of the helmets, you know, you just added a little bit of aggravation to the week. I don't know if that was necessarily needed. I mean, I like Hugh Jackson as a coach, but does as a Grambling Knight myself, does Hugh Jackson even understand the significance of the G on the side of the helmets? Does he even understand that whole history? He might, but he might not. And I don't know. And BJ, you could explain this as a player. Something like that is the right type of motivation. Now, in the second half against Jackson State and against Bethune, they fell off the wagon. And you talked about special teams. They've been in the last couple of games, but they just can't come out in the third quarter and kind of establish themselves. And so I'm kind of concerned about that as a Grambling Knight myself. I will say this, though, in terms of looking at it from a Grambling Knight and a positive side, if I can. Grambling is maybe the only team in the country that hasn't played a home game yet. They play in Huntsville next week, and then they got 3 in a row at home. If they somehow get this game in Dallas, I think that's going to turn the West upside down. Of course, that'll leave the Braves as the only undefeated team in the West, and then, we got to go to Valley, got to go to Southern. But this one here, as a Grambling Knight myself, I don't expect Grambling to win. But if they somehow rally the troops and get it together and beat Prairie View, it's going to turn the West upside down. And then all pressure is going to be on Alcorn to continue to do what they've been doing. Because Grambling's got 3 in a row at home on the back end of this schedule. That could be very tough, and it's hard to win in the hole. I've been saying it for years, and I think that could spur them on. But my prediction for the moment, my prediction is Prairie View. I just think they're the better team. They're more consistent. But if Grambling gets this one, the West is going to be really wild, I think.
I've got Prairie View. As BJ alluded to, defensively, they're very good at front seven, and they're physical. And a couple of ingredients: running the football and defense, albeit BJ talked about on the back end needing some improvement there. But they've got 2 of the 3 ingredients to keep and put yourself in a position to win it. And nobody. You're looking at a guy who didn't talk a lot about Prairie View. I saw some of their fans talking like everyone's forgotten about Prairie View. We lost our best defensive player. We got a new coach. And just quietly, they've been getting things done, and they've put themselves in a position. This is a huge ball game for them. They win it. It's a divisional win. It's a win overall in the conference. They're sitting 3-0. But I like Prairie View and them to continue the streak. So that's 3 up and 3 down with Prairie View. Alabama State and Texas Southern. Texas Southern is improved compared to last year. They've got body. They've got receivers. Defensively, still a question mark for me. Alabama State lost last week. I got Alabama State, and I got a feeling I'm going to be the only one to pick Alabama State on this one, but I'll see. But Alabama State smarting a little bit after a loss, but they're at Texas Southern. This is a game that in the past couple of years, Texas Southern would drop. But we shall see. I like Alabama State. BJ.
I think they'll drop it again. I think Alabama State last week against Prairie View was coulda, woulda, shoulda. They had opportunities to pull out that ball game. Turnovers killed them. And I think the biggest thing for Alabama State is they have to make a decision at the quarterback position. I understand Demetrius Davis came in with a lot of hype. He's this, that, and the other. But that offense flows with Miles Crawley as the quarterback. As far as getting the ball down the field, Demetrius Davis, for everything that he does, the exciting player that he is athletically, still has a long way to go in the passing game. And you saw that on last week. But I think Alabama State, I think they get it together, and I think they get the win over Texas Southern. And I think they go into next week, homecoming against Jackson State with a little bit of momentum.
Oh, Coach Sanders already talking about and not to get ahead, but somebody has to be a homecoming opponent. But I guess it's sensationalism to bring up you'll regret having us for homecoming. It's just the way it happens sometimes. I don't know. I guess I just don't understand that. Maybe everyone can educate me on that. It's the next doggone game on the schedule. Charles,
Well,
Alabama State,
I
Texas
can
Southern.
educate you a little bit. I mean, I was talking with our high school coach the other day, and it's just we know homecomings fall on certain dates on the schedule, certain dates on the calendar, and it just so happens that whatever team that you're playing on that particular date, that's the homecoming opponent. It doesn't change. The SWAC master schedule, SWAC master schedule's been out, so it's about the calendar. It's more so about we want to schedule this opponent or that opponent. Now, I don't necessarily, especially when it comes to conference games on homecoming. So I think that gets way overblown.
Sensationalism. Stop
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
Coach Sanders. Stop it.
I agree.
Sensationalism. Yeah.
I'm gonna be the odd apple out on this prediction. This is the first home game for Texas Southern. I'm looking at their schedule. This is their first home game. We know what Body did against Southern University. Body's growing up as we speak a little bit. I still think Alabama State has some question marks as BJ talked about the quarterback position. I'm gonna go with Texas Southern in this one. I've been saying that Texas Southern could ruin some people's day, and I think this is one of those games. You make the long trip from Montgomery to Houston. I'm gonna go with Texas Southern in this one. I think this was one that could turn their season around, especially beating Southern. Coach McKinney was very emotional after the game in Arlington, hoisting that trophy and just all the hard work and criticism he's taken, all the darts he's taken. I think this is one that'll continue to propel them. I'm gonna go the other way with this one, and I'm gonna go with Texas Southern beating Alabama State.
Wow. Yeah. One game. Wow. It was a great victory for them, but just like we've been talking about, you can't think about it if you lost that game, and even when you win it, you enjoy the moment, then you move on. Last but not least, Pine Bluff at Southern University. Charles, who do you have?
I got Pine Bluff. I
kind of knew that. I had that feeling,
I got
BJ.
Pine Bluff, and I know I know the Jaguar. They send me an email if you disagree. I'm on social media. Let me know. But I got Pine Bluff. I'm not.
I'll let you know, buddy.
BJ will let me know. I'm sure everybody let me know. I'm going on the record. I'm going with Pine Bluff. I think Pine Bluff wants to prove, first of all, that the Alcorn loss last year and this year was a fluke coming back the next week. I think offensively, what Southern's going to have to do is what Alcorn did, run the football. We ran for almost 400 yards last week. Dooley's a pass-happy coach. Aaron Allen threw for under 100 yards last week. We scored 38 points. I think the template is there to beat Pine Bluff and expose that defense. But will Dooley do it? I think that's the question. I think playing at Mumford is another situation. If this game were at Golden Lion Stadium, I would go with Southern. But I think there's still some carryover 2 weeks later. I still think there's some carryover. And I'm sure BJ knows this as a player. When you react instead of think, you don't do well. And I just think there's pressure playing at home, coming off this tough loss. It's been 2 weeks. And yeah, you should get over it. You should have short memory. But does the Jaguar Nation really have short memories? No. I think Southern is going to stumble through this game. I think if they get off to a slow start like they did, and Skylar Perry, don't sell this kid short. I just saw him last week. He's really good with his feet. They have some pretty good receivers. The middle of that defense with Peppers, who led the team in tackles last week, I think that defense is going to hold Southern in check. And I don't know if Southern bounces back. Even though they're at home, their conference home opener, their first home game in conference under Coach Dooley. I don't know. I'm not quite sold yet. I'm going with Pine Bluff.
BJ?
Look, it's bounce back day. It's a bounce back day for all the Coach Dooley pass happy narratives. The fact remains from Texas Southern, we threw the ball 40 times, we ran the ball 40 times. We're pretty much balanced right there down the middle. Now, you can make an argument about who ran the ball and when, and that's a more valid argument. I think this team coming back, I know the attitude of this team. They can't wait to get on the football field. And it didn't matter who it was going to be against. It just happened tonight against Arkansas Pine Bluff. And that Pine Bluff defense, they're not good against the run, not particularly good against the pass. And that's a bad recipe when you're coming off a frustrated Coach Dooley and that offense that did nothing but work on timing, worked on fundamentals, and worked on those things. And if Alcorn's defensive line got to you that many times, I think Skylar Perry was sacked 6 times last week, somewhere in that number. Imagine what this defensive line is going to do healthy. Everyone's back. The gun is fully loaded.
Yeah,
Might be a
Jason
long day
Dumas.
for one Mr. Perry because we don't understand. You got an All-American left tackle. That's one guy. We're going to be rolling in 6 or 7. He can't block all 6 or 7 of them, and they're coming. Now give me Southern and give me Southern big.
Well, Jason Dumas is scheduled to start, and boy, that's a question I've been getting. And Coach Dooley doesn't really talk about injuries. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago I saw him going into the store, him being Jason Dumas, and even then he was like, "I'm all right," but he makes a start today. Jordan Lewis against Mark Evans. That's another matchup to look at. Their backs to the wall, some would say. I like Southern in this ball game as well. I'll be happy with a 7-point victory. I'll be extremely happy with a 21-point victory or 14. I want to win, but it's going to be interesting to see the makeup of this Southern University team. And then I refer back to a few years ago. Southern got beat by Alcorn State, and everybody was in a bad mood. And they came to Prairie View, and they won 38-0. Now, that will make some of the Odom's disciples who are still there on Southern campus, they were happy that day. But with that being said, I like Southern University in this ball game. You got to win the week. You got to have a short memory, laser focus today, and look no further. Next week, Coach Dooley goes back to Prairie View to play a football game. Then Alcorn's coming on. This is the month of October, BJ. You know what that means. Historically, that's been a make it or break it month. We'll simply leave it there for Southern University and other teams. Alcorn too, Charles, because the same people that were frustrated with Southern, they were frustrated with Alcorn. I talked to some. And
still are.
Last week, I don't want to call names out, but I will start calling out names. It's an Alcorn night that told me, thank God for the running game, because he says Alcorn's one-dimensional. But hey, they got the win. What it proves in this conference so far, if you got a good quarterback who understands the concepts, that carries you a long way. So other teams are still working in quarterbacks and getting them into the process. There's a game should be going on now, BJ. North Carolina Central and Campbell. Your thoughts on it? Big game.
North Carolina Central.
playing.
North Carolina Central right now is taking it on the chin. Man, Campbell is showing that's a big physical team. I think people look at that 1-2 record and don't look at the schedule and see who they played and then think. But this Campbell team they're dominant. And right now they're dominating North Carolina Central. And they look good doing it, man. They're big on the offensive line, defensive line, and those fronts are going to cause some problems for Jackson State.
Your top 5. And I saw it on social media, and BJ, you're like me. I took some heat from last week calling out some of the Southern fans, rightfully so, and I'll still stand by that. But your top 5.
Number 1, we all know who that is Jackson State. 2, I had North Carolina Central. In the 3rd place, I had Prairie View. In the 4th spot, I had Alcorn. And in the 5th spot, I had South Carolina State.
Well, they lost Thursday night, but they played up. Prairie View, just in the back of my mind, it's like, and I'm talking about me personally, did I sell them short? Nobody really talked about them.
Remember, I told people at Media Day, I told people at Media Day I am not sleeping on Prairie View. Like I kept saying that SWAT Media Day. I do not agree where Prairie View's predicted to finish. That team is there's a lot of talent on that football team.
So I think the West is still in play for several teams. But again, I'll stick back to the month of October will be the telltale. For some, November won't matter. For some, November will matter. But the next couple of weeks for certain teams, it is going to be crucial. And I know everybody is basically saying it's Jackson State versus question mark. Could be a replay, a rematch of last year. I guess the East is much more settled, but the West is still to play. Closing comments from each of the guests. Charles, we'll give you 1 minute.
Yeah, our thoughts, my thoughts and prayers are with the people in Florida. We talked about, Bethune-Cookman's campus. I talked with Brian Fulford, one of our producers who lives in Florida. He's safe and sound. I mean, it was a devastating. I have a cousin that lives in Tampa. They dodged it. So it's our thoughts and prayers are with the folks in Florida. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these games today. We're going to see the Medal of Grambling. We're going to see the Medal of Prairie View. We're going to see the Medal of Southern University. I'm looking forward to seeing these games in one of the few bye weeks that we have, just to see how things kind of settle in as we approach the midway point of the season.
BJ?
I second Charles' thoughts and prayers with all those families and everyone impacted by the hurricane this week. Really praying for everyone there. October, we call it, this is the month you separate the pretenders from the contenders. The class of the conference is going to really step up front over these next couple of weeks. So all these games are critical. They're crucial. It's good to see Alcorn State kind of back to where Alcorn State has been. And I like the way that they're doing it. They're doing it in a way that's Alcorn State-like. They're running the ball and playing defense. And that's what made them successful. And it just lets you know when you have a winning formula, it doesn't matter what other people do. It doesn't matter what's sexy. What works for your program works for your program. So looking forward to the games today. Homecoming at Alabama A&M. Happy homecoming to all the Bulldogs. The Jags return to Mumford. We got the State Fair Classic finally on television after a few years off. Valley going to FAMU. Texas Southern and Alabama State. And tonight, the races in the East and West will start taking a little bit more form. It'll start shaping up a little bit more after this week. So we'll have a lot to talk about on next week.
I'll just keep it simple. I appreciate everyone, and if I can do this, who's watching, of course, Chuck Hunt, also Theo Quest Major. Who else do we have here? Travis Tyrone Banks. Thank you, Chuck. Michael Cavalier, appreciate you tuning in. Troy Franklin. Want to thank all of the guests. We had a slow start to getting on. Technology is a great thing, but sometimes you have to make adjustments. I want to thank Roy for coming in, pitching in, and helping out. We were able to make adjustments, not before halftime, but in the first quarter. Appreciate all the guests. Quincy Richard, I really enjoyed talking with him. I hope you understood and took what he talked about as far as the quarterback play and how it's a process. And let's cheer on this Southern Jaguar football team. Win, lose, or draw, it's a process. And we hope, and I hope, that the crowd is electric in A.W. Mumford Stadium. I kind of wonder how the energy is going to be after a tough loss and then waiting 2 weeks to play a football game. That's it. And, of course, everyone who was affected by the hurricane this past week. Until next Saturday, for BJ and Charles Edmond, I'm Carlos Brown. 11 Central. at least most times, right here on Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless. Charles, I want to see that chant in a couple of weeks coming
Something
down.
going on with Charles' arm. Call the medic.